Okay, so this is going to be the first recording of the digestive system. So the digestive system is going to consist of a set of organs that breaks down food items into nutrients that can be delivered by the bloodstream once absorbed in to the cells throughout the body. Organs are located from the head all the way to the abdominal pelvic cavity. So it starts with the oral cavity with the mouth, and it goes all the way through, the body, through the abdominal pelvic cavity, and eventually ends in the anal rectal area. The digestive system consists of two types of organs that are directly part of the alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract, or GI tract, or digestive tract, whatever you want to call it. This is one continuous tube that starts from the oral cavity and ends in the anus. Various structures along the way. Obviously the mucosal lining is going to change a little bit along the way, depending on the function of the particular structure. And then we have various accessory organs. This would be things like the gallbladder, pancreas, liver, which contribute to digestive functions. So the GI tract is a continuous tube through which food passes directly. It consists of the oral cavity, which is the mouth, the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines. Your accessory structures, these are not directly part of the GI tract, but they assist in digestion in some other way. They are located around the alimentary canal, and these include your things such as your teeth, tongue, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Okay, so the accessory organs are not part of the GI tract, but they assist digestion in some way. They are located typically around the GI tract, and these would include things like the teeth, the tongue, salivary glands, your liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Liver, gallbladder, and pancreas will actually have ducts that will open up into the GI tract, such as the small intestines, to deliver their various secretions. Food generally does not come in direct contact with the accessory organs. The only exceptions to that would be the teeth and the tongue, which are involved in mastication. One of the things I just want to mention about the GI tract is that the lumen of the GI tract is technically considered outside the body. So that entire mucosal lining is an outside surface. And one way to think about this is picture yourselves as a big donut where you have a huge hole going right through the middle of you, okay? Unless nutrients, once they're broken down, pass through that mucosal membrane and get into either the lymphatics or the bloodstream, the capillaries, all of the nutrients, all of the food is technically outside the body until it gets absorbed in. And here we can see an overview of the digestive system and the organs. So it starts in the oral cavity here, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small, large intestines, and here's your accessory structures of liver, gallbladder in green here, pancreas here, and then you have your various salivary glands and teeth up top there. So most fundamental function of the digestive system is to take food into the body and break it down into its component nutrients so that they can be used by the body cells. Other functions include the critical role in fluid, electrolyte, and acid-based homeostasis by taking water and electrolytes via the diet and directly delivering them into the blood. Also by the ingestion of vitamins and minerals, producing hormones, and also excreting any metabolic waste. The digestive system must perform the following basic processes to carry out these functions. Food and water are brought into the digestive system by ingestion, and this occurs via the mouth under normal conditions. Secretion is when the digestive organs contain both endocrine and exocrine glands that secrete various substances. And these secretions could be involved in starting to digest down the food product into more basic nutrient classes. Okay. But the secretions could also be something like mucus, which is just going to help to keep food moving along the GI tract as creating a lubricant for that to occur. The digestive system must perform also the function of movement. The food needs to be propelled or moved along the entire GI tract. And ingested food and liquids will pass from one digestive organ to the next by a process called propulsion. And propulsion is going to be accomplished by two main processes. One is rhythmic contractions of the smooth muscle of the GI tract, which is called peristalsis. And this is also aided by that mucus to help lubricate so things can slide along. But also by another process called segmentation, which we'll talk about when we get to the large intestines. Now, as far as digestion, which is the primary function of the digestive system, there are two types of digestion. Mechanical digestion is when the digestive organs physically break down food into smaller pieces via processes such as chewing or mixing food by muscular movements of the GI tract. The stomach will cause a churning action, which will also mechanically break down food. This is the physical pulverizing and breaking down of food product. Chemical digestion, on the other hand, is using enzymes secreted by the digestive organs to catalyze reactions. And they will break down chemical bonds within the food particles until only small molecules actually remain. Once food particles are digested, they move through the wall of the GI tract into the blood or the lymphatic vessels by absorption. Water, electrolytes, and vitamins are also absorbed into the blood via the same manner. Certain ingested materials are not digestible or are not even usable by the body. Such materials will continue transit through the GI tract until exiting the body as feces through defecation. An example of this would be cellulose. Cellulose is something that's found in the walls of some plants, and we are not able to digest that down, and we are not able to use cellulose. So what happens is, at the end of the day, cellulose gets removed via defecation. Defecation also provides the body a way to eliminate certain metabolic waste. Defecation is simply a specialized form of propulsion. Now, the digestive organs that reside in the abdominal cavity share a common set of serous membranes, blood vessels, and nerves. And the peritoneal membranes, these are the largest serous membranes in the body, and they consist of two layers: an outer parietal peritoneum that lines the inner surface of the body wall, and where the parietal peritoneum meets the abdominal organs, it folds on itself to become what they call the viscera peritoneum or serosa, and this forms the outer tissue layer of the organs. So this is the layer that's directly covering the organs. And you guys have seen these terms before, parietal and visceral, in other systems, such as the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system. Between the two peritoneal layers is a peritoneal cavity that's filled with serous fluid. And again, this serous fluid is going to allow for friction-free movement, expansion of the various GI structures. Most of your GI tract is collapsed. It expands when food is passing through it. So as food is moving along the GI tract is going to continuously expand out, which will push over into areas where other areas of the GI tract, and then it just continuously moves. So your GI organs are pretty fluid as far as movement is concerned. The visceral peritoneum folds over itself around certain organs, particularly the small intestines, to form mesenteries. These will support and bind the organs together and keep the small intestines in shape that fits within the cavity, which allows just sort of netting it all together so things don't get tied up in a big knot. The mesenteries will also have blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatic vessels, and anchor them in place. The mesentery is attached to much of the large intestine, and that is called the mesocolon. There are two mesenteries that are especially prominent: the greater omentum, which is a unique mesentery in that it consists of 4 layers of folded visceral peritoneum, and it extends from the base of the stomach down into the pelvis. And then the lesser omentum, which is a smaller mesentery that extends from the medial surface of the stomach to the liver. And here you can see the greater omentum here, and then the lesser. And you can sort of see that here. This is all this yellow stuff right here. Okay. These mesenteries are also going to house fat or adipocytes as well. So blood vessels that supply and drain the abdominal digestive organs are collectively referred to as splanchnic circulation. The arterial supply of the digestive organs consists of branches directly from the abdominal aorta, the celiac trunk, the superior mesenteric artery, the inferior mesenteric artery, and branches from each of these various arteries. The digestive organs are drained by a set of veins that drain into the hepatic portal vein, and this delivers blood to the liver for processing. Blood drains from the liver by a set of hepatic veins, in turn, delivers blood to the inferior vena cava. Organs of the digestive system are extremely and extensively supplied with nerves. Mostly are branches from the autonomic nervous system because their job is to really control a lot of that smooth muscle there as far as either peristaltic contractions or segmentation. Nerves from the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions that serve the digestive organs are located in 3 main clusters: the celiac plexus, the superior mesenteric plexus, and the inferior mesenteric plexus. The organs of the alimentary canal receive innervation from nerve plexuses of the enteric nerve system, which will be submucosa and myenteric plexuses. The plexuses work together to control secretion from and motility of the GI tract. Neurons of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, the ENS, and even the CNS are involved in multiple digestive reflex arcs. Sensory component of the reflex arcs is provided by receptors located in the walls of the GI organs. These receptors will respond to stimuli, primarily that of stretch as food is pushing on the walls, as well as concentration and pH of fluids that they contain and the presence of certain products of digestion. When the receptors are stimulated, their axons will contact the neurons in the ANS or ENS. Then they initiate the appropriate response. And that's sort of our regulation there along the GI tract. Okay, so looking at the histology of the GI tract, the organs of the GI tract follow the same general tissue pattern of other hollow organs. You're going to have concentric layers of tissue that surround the space, which is the lumen. And again, the internal space there is considered outside the body. Okay. Most regions of the GI tract contain 4 layers: an inner epithelial layer referred to as mucosa, layer of connective tissue referred to as a submucosa, layer of smooth muscle referred to as the muscularis externa, and then an outer layer of connective tissue referred to as the serosa. The innermost layer, the mucosa, consists of 3 components. A layer of epithelium faces the lumen, followed by a thin layer of loose connective tissue, the lamina propria, which is typically also referred to as the basement membrane. And finally, 2 thin layers of smooth muscle together, the muscularis mucosa. The epithelium from the stomach to the end of the large intestines is simple columnar epithelium with copious goblet cells. This will secrete an alkaline mucus. The mucus coats the epithelium and protects it and underlying tissues from ingested food and chemicals secreted by the digestive organs. The mucosa also houses regenerative epithelial cells that have a high rate of mitosis. This allows the mucosa to replicate and replace epithelial cells that are damaged or sloughed off. You know, you got to think about some of the food product that you eat. If it's acidic, if it's basic, if it's rough or coarse, that can actually damage that lining. I always use the Dorito example. Picture you know, swallowing Doritos, which are pretty rough edge there. The lamina propria houses blood and lymphatic vessels, glands, and mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, or MALT, which we talked about with the lymphatic system. Two layers of the muscularis mucosa are arranged in different directions. An inner layer is circular and an outer layer is longitudinal. And this allows for motility as the two layers contract alternately. The submucosa is composed of dense irregular connective tissue with blood and lymphatic vessels and submucosal glands. The nerve clusters of the enteric nervous system are referred to as the submucosal plexus, or Meissner's plexus. Each plexus regulates secretion from the blood flow to its area of the GI tract. Muscularis externa, this is a thick, smooth muscle layer in most of the GI tract. It's composed of two layers of smooth muscle arranged in an inner circular and an outer longitudinal layers. Motility of the muscularis externa is regulated by groups of nerves of the enteric nervous system called the myenteric plexus or Auerbach's plexus. And then finally, the outer connective tissue layer is the serosa in organs with peritoneal cavity, and the serosa or visceral peritoneum is composed of simple squamous epithelial tissue and loose connective tissue. The adventitia, which is going to be composed of dense irregular connective tissue. Both of these structures will support the digestive organs and also actually anchor them to surrounding structures so that you don't end up with the GI tracts that are just really sliding all over the place, which could be a little bad because you can end up knotting up things, okay? Which is not going to be good at the end of the day. And here we can see those four layers: our mucosal layer, submucosa, muscularis layer, and then the outer serosa. Now, motility and movement along the GI tract is a key process in every region of the canal. In the oral cavity, pharynx, superior portion of the esophagus, and last portion of the intestines, motility is due to skeletal muscle. In the rest of the GI tract, motility is the work of smooth muscle. Motility takes on several forms, including swallowing, churning, peristalsis, and defecation. Some of these movements will propel food through the canal, whereas others will mix it as part of the mechanical digestive process. Now, each type of motility is regulated by the nervous system and/or the endocrine system. The nervous system regulation of motility consists of nerves from the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system generally have opposite effects on GI motility. Sympathetic nervous system will typically or generally inhibit any digestive processes, whereas parasympathetic stimulation will always stimulate any digestive processes. The functions stimulated by the autonomic nervous system are long reflexes. They must travel outside the local digestive neurons to the central nervous system in order to function. Motility is regulated by a group of nerves collectively referred to as the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is self-contained, branched of the autonomic nervous system, and it extends from the esophagus all the way through the entire GI tract to the anus, which is a terminal or end portion of the large intestines. The functions that are stimulated by the enteric nervous system are short reflexes. The reflex pathways are confined to the local neurons. The endocrine system regulates the digestive process also by secreting various types of hormones. Many hormones are actually what we call paracrines, which are produced by the digestive organs themselves, particularly the stomach and small intestine. Each hormone binds to a receptor on or within the target cell and regulates some of the aspect of its functioning. Hormones are going to either stimulate or inhibit motility of the GI tract, often together with one or more neural mechanisms. And that is it for the intro to the GI tract, and that is it for the first recording of the digestive system.